He said, man, he's like, man, my baby mom was putting me through it. And so I'm listening to him talk about his child's mother, and I was like, so what does she do? He said, well, she's a stripper. So it's like, why'd you have a baby with a stripper? Right? And but if you dig deeper into his past, he hated his mother. His mother was never there for him. He did not have a good mother. So what that translated into was these crazy scattered relationships with women, and they've caused him professional problems. You know, it's cost him not just a big chunk of his bank account, but also it's cost him his peace and his mental health. And also on top of that, I think to this day he's not married, but he still has these relationship flare-ups where crazy things will happen that disrupt his ability to advance professionally, financially, and otherwise. So what I would say, my last point on this, and I'm not trying to be anybody's therapist here. My wife actually is a therapist, and if you're looking for one, she's good. She sees clients and stuff. So her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. So shout out to my wife. But I would say that everybody has these little red flags and little triggers. And I would say just like that awareness of those things, so you know when you're going into that space that's going to disrupt what you're trying to do, you can stop and pause and reflect on it. And at the very least, even if you're having the feeling, you'll know you're having the feeling. And then you can say, I'm having this feeling because I know that one of my blind spots is blank, blank, blank. Or I tend to be attracted to blank, blank, blank. Or I tend to want to do blank, blank, blank. And now because I'm aware of it, I can confront it and I can diagnose it and I can go in the opposite direction even if it feels awkward. Does that make sense? I hope that helps. And that'll be really important for you as you're trying to build wealth. Because if you don't do these things, then they become very costly. And a lot of black wealth, I would say, there's trillions of dollars in black wealth is lost just due to poor decision making when it comes to things like relationships or just fear. Fear is a really big one. There's so much there. In fact, with wealth, there's like what they call the what do they call it? The fleas in the jar scenario, where you know how they train the fleas, they put the lid on the jar and the fleas can't get out, and then when they remove the lid, the fleas still sit there because they think that the lid is there and they don't even try to get out. Um, and so that fear, that fleas in the jar scenario pops out a lot when it comes to black wealth and investing. You have that fear of moving because you think that there's a lid on the jar when there is no lid. For example, there is no whites only sign on the stock market, but there are a lot of black people who are still afraid to invest in the stock market because you're sort of filled with all these traumatic stories about black people losing all their money. And then after you deal with the fleas in the jar issue, you got to deal with crabs in a barrel. Crabs in a barrel is where you, when you do decide, hey, I want to fly out of this jar, then you got the crabs pulling you back in, right? You've got to deal with some of the traumatized people in your own family, people in your own community, sometimes your own friends, sometimes your own partner that really doesn't want to see you fly because your success reminds them of their failure. And then they say, Negro, who do you think you are? You think you're better than the rest of us. And so they make themselves feel better by doing what they can to make sure that you fail. And then there might be, and then after that, there might be what you call the sharks in the water, which is after you finish dealing with your own fear, you don't fault yourself, and then you dealt with all the crabs, you don't chop the crabs off your legs, so now you're flying. Well, I call it sharks in the water because now you're out there and you're really out here doing your thing, working hard. Then you got to deal with the white man. Then you got to deal with the racism. Then you got to deal with all with capitalism.